Learn how to make any inspirational message look more meaningful by turning it into a 3D typography poster. In this Photoshop tutorial, you will learn how to create striking 3D gold text, add reflections with image-based lighting, create a drywall background from scratch, and position your lights using an easy method. To follow this tutorial, you'll need Photoshop CS6 Extended. Start by creating a new 1920 by 1200 pixels document with a white background. Select the Text tool and type in your text. We're using the Babus New and Pacifico font. They're free and you can find the download link in the video description. In your Characters panel, adjust the font size and leading to your likings. Once you're done, press Ctrl or Command-T and scale and position your text in the middle. To position your text perfectly in the center, hold the Ctrl or Command key and select the text and background layers. Switch to the Move tool, then click on the two Align Center buttons in the Options bar. Next, we're going to convert the text to 3D. To do this, right-click on the text layer and choose New 3D Extrusion from Layer. Depending on how complicated your text is, Photoshop might give you a message that your text is too complicated for it to process. If this happens, you need to convert it to a path and use Adobe Illustrator to simplify the path. To do this, right-click on the text layer and select Convert to Shape. Copy the shape layer to your clipboard, then paste it into a new document in Adobe Illustrator. In Illustrator, go to Object, Path, Simplify. Checkmark the Preview option, then adjust the settings so that you get the least amount of points without distorting the text much. Copy and paste the text back into Photoshop. Photoshop will ask you how you want to paste your text as. Select Shape Layer, then click OK. Delete the other text layer, then right-click on the new shape layer and select New 3D Extrusion from selected layer. Photoshop will switch you to the 3D interface automatically. Go back into the Layers panel and select the background layer. We're going to convert this to a 3D object so that we can use it as a wall for the 3D text. Right-click on the background layer and select Postcard. Switch back to the Layers panel and select the two layers. Merge the layers into a single 3D layer by pressing Ctrl or Command-D. We're going to start by reducing the thickness of the 3D text. Select the 3D text layer in the 3D panel, then reduce the extrusion depth setting in the Properties panel. You can get a better preview pressing Alt-Shift-Control-R or Option-Shift-Command-R on Macs to do a quick render of the scene. Photoshop will begin rendering the picture, and when it looks good enough, click anywhere to stop the render. Keep adjusting the setting and rendering it for a preview until you get the results that you like. Now we're going to adjust the material of your 3D text so that it looks gold. In the 3D panel, select the first materials layer, then hold the Shift key and select the last materials layer. Your Properties panel will switch to the materials settings. Start by setting the diffuse color to a yellow-orange color. The color I'm using is FFC000. We'll go back and adjust the other material settings later when we have the lighting set up. But for now, we're going to align text layer with the background layer. Change your camera view to left by right-clicking on the view box on the bottom right corner and choosing Left. Next, select the text and background layer groups. You can select multiple layers by holding the Ctrl or Command key. Select the Move tool, then click on the Align Left Edges button in the Options bar. Now your text is aligned with the background and you can switch your view back to the default camera view. Render your scene by pressing Alt-Shift-Control-R, Option-Shift-Command-R on Macs to get a preview of how your scene looks. Everything looks pretty flat, and if you like it this way, you can let Photoshop render the entire scene and save your image. But there's a lot more we can do to make your quote better, and one of them is lighting. There are many ways you can light your 3D objects to make them look more dramatic. We'll show you an easy one that uses just one light that will cast a diagonal shadow from your 3D text. To add a light to your scene, click on the New Light button in your 3D panel and choose New Point Light. We're going to position this light on the top right corner of the text and have it cast a shadow diagonally. Moving a light to the perfect spot takes a bit of experience with 3D, but there's an easier way to do this. Select the Move tool and set the 3D mode to rotate in the Options bar. In the view box, drag to reposition your view so that you are looking at your 3D text from the top right corner. Think of it like playing a first-person shooter game. You want to reposition yourself so that you can shine your flashlight from the upper right side of the text. Once you're in the right angle, switch your 3D mode to slide and position yourself so that you're further away from the 3D text. When you're in the right position, click on the Move to View button in the Properties panel to move your point light to your current view. To make your shadow more noticeable, increase your intensity. We'll readjust this setting later. Switch back to the default camera view, then render the scene to preview your lighting. Play around with the camera view and light intensity to get the results that you like. We have our shadow, but it looks too solid. To improve it, we're going to make the shadow fade by adjusting the light fall-off of your point light. Make sure that you have your point light selected, then, in the Properties panel, enable the Light Fall-Off option. Zoom out of your document so that you can see the point light, then adjust the outer light fall-off setting so that the outline reaches the bottom right of your document. Next, adjust your inner light fall-off setting so that the outline reaches the top right corner of your document. Render the scene to preview the effects. Here's the before and after results of the light fall-off setting. It makes your light fade away for a more realistic look. Now we're going to go back to the 3D text to adjust the bevel and materials. Select the 3D text layer, then in the Properties panel, click on the cap settings, then set the width to 10%. This will give your text a slight bevel on the edge. Next, select all of the materials layer for the 3D text, then set the shine to 0. Reflection to 100%, and roughness to 3%. This roughness setting will give it a very subtle texture so that its reflections aren't perfectly sharp. If you leave the roughness at 0%, you'll get sharp mirror-like reflections. In the 3D panel, select the front bevel material, then set the shine to 100% and roughness to 0%. This will make the bevel stand by reflecting more light. To really make the gold text shiny, we need to add some reflection to it. To do this, you need to use image-based lighting. Select the Environment 3D layer and enable the IBL setting in the Properties panel. Currently, your 3D text has no reflections because there is nothing in front of it. When you apply a photo or texture to the IBL setting, it uses that as a reflection. You can load any photo and use that as a reflection, but we're going to create our own reflection for a simpler look. Click on the folder icon and choose New Texture. Photoshop will create a new document for your new texture. Create the new document same width and height as your current document, which is 1920 by 1200 pixels. Click on the folder icon again and click Edit Texture. Photoshop will open a new document for you to create the reflection. To create the reflection, select the Rectangle tool. Set your fill to black and stroke to none. Then draw a box covering the bottom half of your document. The black and white reflection will make the reflection too strong, so to tone it down, add a brightness contrast adjustment layer by clicking on the New Adjustment Layer button in the Layers panel and selecting Brightness Contrast. Enable the Use Legacy option, then reduce the contrast to -50. Save and close the document. Your 3D text now has a reflection, but we need to reposition it. With the Move tool selected, drag the sphere on the center of your screen to reposition the reflection so that it is centered with your text. We're almost done. The final part we're going to work on is the background wall, and we're going to give it a drywall texture that's easy to make. To start, select the background layer material in your 3D panel. Set the diffuse color to white, shine, and reflections to 0% and roughness to 100%. If you look in the diffuse setting, it is a texture that was automatically created in the beginning when we converted the background layer into a 3D object. We don't need this texture, so click on the button and choose Remove Texture. In the bump settings, click on the folder button and choose New Texture. Set the width to 1920 pixels and height to 1200 pixels. Click on the button again and choose Edit Texture. Photoshop will open the texture and we'll be adding a noise pattern to this to give the wall a slight bump texture. Go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. Leave the default settings, then click OK. Press Shift-Control-L, Shift-Command-L on Macs to apply auto levels to your noise. Save and close the document. Your background now has a bumpy texture, but it's a little too strong. Reduce the bump setting to 5%, then render the scene to see how it looks. We're done! Feel free to go back into any material or light layers to tune the settings. Most likely you'll need to go back into the point light layer to readjust intensity. Before we end this tutorial, we're going to show you a trick to make your 3D artwork look a bit more realistic. In 3D art, the colors can sometimes look too perfect. To correct this, you can manipulate the colors with the Curves tool. Add a new Curves adjustment layer by clicking on the New Adjustment layer in the Layers panel and choosing Curves. Switch the channel to blue and drag the points towards the vertical center. This will add some blues to the shadows and yellows to the highlights. Switch to the red channel and create a very slight S-curve to compress your red channel. Switch back to the RGB channel and create an S shade to increase the contrast. You can adjust the opacity of this curves layer to reduce the effect. Here are the final results. Thanks for watching this video tutorial. Remember to subscribe to us for more great Photoshop tutorials. Here are more videos that you might enjoy.